Hello, I'm Dr. Samuel Eshelman Latimer, and today I want to talk about men with a combination of borderline personality disorder and narcissistic personality disorder combined. And I want to do this in a way that is hopefully destigmatizing and promotes understanding for that individual, but also understanding for loved ones, because this really is a set of difficulties that are healed in the context of community and relationships and people's responding to that individual. And then also that individual's self-awareness and ability to work on their own emotions and skills as well. So, of course, anyone across any gender could have this combination of disorders, but there are certain unique features of men with borderline and narcissistic behaviors that it's just worth talking about it separately. And so, first, just to paint that picture of a situation where from the outside, another individual would see, um, would experience, this interaction and think about this combination of factors. We could picture, for example, a wife and a husband who are going out on a date. And they're going out on a date, and the husband gets there first. And he's the one in this case who's struggling with this combination. And she got there 10 minutes late. And as soon as he got there 10 minutes late, the first thing that he says is, "What the fuck? You can never be here on time. You can never get this right." And so that's kind of the first thing that he says. And he's angry, and you can just see the irritation. And this is just this immediately, just this attack is coming out. And she kind of backs up. She's like, "Well, fine. If you're not going to talk to me, right? I don't deserve this. I'm going to step back." And then next thing we know, we see this huge fluctuation in in the husband. There's this huge fluctuation where he's sobbing and just intensity and "How dare you? Would you abandon me?" And I'm just, in so much pain. I cannot believe everything I've done for you. And he's sort of fluctuating back to that state. And so she says, "Okay, well, I'll come and sit down." And that's that outside experience. So, of course, the loved one experiencing it, it's tremendously painful, tremendously confusing. Now, inside that individual fluctuating between the narcissism and borderline personality disorder behavior, we can see this internal turmoil. He was there, waiting on her. And he has this sense of pride and alignment with certain emotions that are not softer. So with irritability and with, yeah, like pride as well. And so he's proud of this luxurious restaurant that he has picked out. But he also feels this whole mixture of emotions from the day because he has intense emotions. And so he noticed that another waitress was attractive. He felt guilt a moment, but it flipped to anger immediately of like, "What the fuck are you doing? Get back in line." So he kind of just critiques himself in his mind and just flips to anger. And the next thing he know, it was about 7 minutes after, and he looks at his clock, and the waiter asks, "Would you like to order yet?" And this deep sense of shame sets in. How dare she leave me here like this? How embarrassing. It's 7 minutes after. But that also comes out as anger because, there's not really much ability to tolerate this intense shame that's been brought up. And then he sees her come into the restaurant. And this is all from his perspective, too. And he sees that she smiles at the other waiter. And he says, "She doesn't smile at me like that. She doesn't care about me like that." well, fuck her because she is mean to me. She doesn't care about me. And this narrative that's so strong and it's so mean too toward this is the narcissistic narrative um, toward others, but it's also very mean toward himself, even as he elevates himself a bit. So he's got all of that rage. And then by the time she's come over, out comes the angry attack. But as soon as he sees her turn to leave, it just for a moment flips into this deep-seated sense of low self-worth and abandonment that's there. That the person who is emotionally supporting me the most, the person who most cares about me here is leaving me. And just this deep-seated pain, and that pain is real, that pain is there, that suffering is there throughout that entire exchange. So it's intense and it's an intense amount of suffering. And there's a lot of support that's needed on both ends there for the loved ones going through that experience of sometimes, and again, not to be stigmatizing, but it can become abusive, the interactions. And so they're having to deal with that. And then that person themselves. And unfortunately, that man with both the narcissistic and borderline personality disorder behavior is going to have some barriers to help seeking because part of the narrative still about not experiencing softer emotions and being cautious to let other people help and standing up for yourself works strongly against the help seeking narrative. However, there is still some incentive for them to be trying to seek help in the conflictual relationship from the mother or from the wife, if they're heterosexual, or from another person who's close to them. They're the closest person to them in that conflictual relationship. And so that's the person that they trust enough to try to do this with. Now they need both. If it's going to become more steady for that person to stay steady with them and to try to reduce their own burnout and see if they can make it work together, they need either that or if that other person separates from them or if that happens multiple times, that can be like a prompting thing that gets them to seek help elsewhere. But if they stay in, they need both because the loved one can help, but also the professionals or another older, more stable male mentor needs to help as well, because then all of the difficulty isn't entirely on that one individual who's closer. And so they need kind of both operating from both fronts and that individual's awareness to start to realize that there is a way out of this. Because oftentimes they realize to some extent in that moment, like I'm doing damage to myself and to others, but it's hard for them to view that there is a way out beyond just harming myself or harming others and getting stuck in that cycle, stuck in that trap. And so it happens through a variety of ways that they can then seek help and get out of that cycle. Um, but also a lot of it while we're waiting for that individual to go and to work on things and to seek help involves empowering the loved ones and equipping the loved ones to create more stable, balanced relationships from their end too, because that's a huge part of the healing process. So, this is just a bit of an introduction to men with both narcissistic and borderline personality disorder behavior. And I hope it helps you just to dive into the topic a bit. I want to offer one more tip before I go. When you are the loved one or another person responding to that person's behavior, the things that you have to do are different depending on whether the behavior coming across is that angry, critical, narcissistic component or the other softer expression component. So while he's throwing darts, while he is angrily critiquing you, then in that circumstance, you need to really look internally, remain sturdy, kind of empower your self-worth. Say to yourself in that moment, I like myself. I do not deserve to be treated this way. That's going to empower you to not be mean. You don't have to be angry or mean back, but to stay really strong and above it. A bit detached too, but not entirely detached. Versus when he flips to that other behavior of intense desperation, then again, being highly validating and leaning into that. And I know that's something um, that I've considered before in this video, the techniques to get there to do that. And so hopefully in future sessions, I'll be able to help with this notion of how to do that and how to get closer to doing that. Because nobody does it perfectly. It's both an art and a science to getting closer to doing that. So I hope this was helpful and we'll continue learning new things together.